Just give me a minute. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishriti. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Rijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shubhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sintubhya Evacha Sita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Parishthaya Bhutale Shukta Radhanath Samnamne Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Parishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshatarni Mukam Karti Vachalam Pangum Nanghete Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dintaranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome all the devotees. I just noticed that we have a few new names in the list of participants. So I would like to welcome those who have joined us for the first time. I see Narendra ji. He had mentioned he'll be joining. Thank you. I also see Segu Jayasai Abhinav. So I'd like to welcome them. And also see Tarun. So welcome to all. And welcome to our regular, and Charumati ji also. So welcome to all of them. And welcome to all the devotees. So first of all, thank you for accommodating this adjustment in the timing. Unfortunately, I have a clashing event at 9, which I am not able to adjust. And again, just in case I forget, I just want to quickly mention, and I'll again repeat it later towards the end of the class. I'm headed to Vrindavan on Monday, and I'll be busy in Vrindavan doing parikrama and visiting various holy places. So over the next week, we will not have our Wednesday as well as Saturday class. We will resume our class the following Wednesday, and I will confirm that. I just want to mention. Of course, I'm posting all this in the WhatsApp group. If you're not in the WhatsApp group and if you want to be regular attendees for this class, to reach out and let us know. I'm putting in the chat my mobile number. You can let me know if you're not in the group and if you wish to be in the WhatsApp group. Of course, it's purely optional. Wonderful. Thank you. So we are actually at a very interesting juncture on the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavad. So those who have connected for the first time, we are discussing the Srimad Bhagavad. The Srimad Bhagavad Puran, the Mahapuran, is considered a subject matter which is elaborating on the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. It's fully aligned with the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, but it elaborates the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita in terms of the knowledge of Bhagavan, Bhakta, and Bhakti. It's a very, very sweet topic, very wonderful topic, because it focuses on the subject matter of the attainment of devotion, which, as per Krishna's instruction in the Bhagavad Gita, allows one to understand him fully and attain him. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschashmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram. Krishna has in no uncertain terms mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita that yes, through various processes of yogas, one may be able to develop some appreciation of the transcendental reality. But if one wants to understand me in truth, truth means fully as I am. Yavan yaschashmi tatvatah. Yavan means exactly as I am. Yavan yaschashmi means exactly as I am. Krishna in no uncertain terms. And tatvatah, in principle, in essence. And not only knowing me, but entering into my spiritual world. Then you must develop devotion for me. You must develop a relationship with me of love, of service. And only that relationship of love will attract the Lord to reveal his true nature to us and shower that grace by which it will become possible to understand him tatvatah and to enter into the spiritual world and have his eternal association in an environment of Sat, Chit, and Anand. So the Bhagavatam is essentially focusing on that subject matter. Bhagavatam is a very elaborate work consisting of 18,000 shlokas. Bhagavad Gita is only 700. So you can imagine how many times more. And out of the 18,000, the 18,000 shlokas are divided roughly into 12 cantos, 12 khandas, and we are at the culmination of the 4th canto. We are at the last chapter, the 31st chapter of the 4th canto, and we have been sequentially going through this for quite some time. So in case you are wondering what book are we referring to, what are we discussing, this is the context. We are today on the 4th canto, 31st chapter. The title of the chapter is Narada Instructs the Pracetas. So for those who have been following the classes, as you are aware, it's a very, very beautiful pastime about Prachina Bharishat, King Prachina Bharishat and Narad Muni, and how Narad Muni delivered King Prachina Bharishat, who was so attracted to religiosity that he forgot spirituality. Some people become so busy with religious rituals, they totally forget the real purpose of religion, which is actually spirituality. And what do we mean by spirituality? In very simple words, spirituality means understanding the true essence of ourselves, understanding the true essence of all existence, which is the supreme truth, and to be able to see that connectivity amongst everything, and to live based on the realization of this truth. And the natural expression of this kind of realization of truth is a life full of love, full of compassion, full of gratitude, full of peace, full of intense bliss. And this is ultimately the longing of each and every soul. And this is ultimately the goal of the Bhagavad and the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati. Who is he that he is never disconnected with me? It is he, Krishna says, who sees me in everything and everything in me. Sees me in everything and everything in me. We have discussed this point in great detail, so I will not belabor that point. But that is the vision that we are working towards, and that vision becomes possible only through love. It is not just an intellectual adjustment. So we are at this particular point in this pastime when King Prachina Barishat was elevated by Narada Muni, the great transcendentalist, by this wonderful allegorical story, through which he made him realize that religiosity, which is aimed at just materialistic enjoyment, is not going to lead to any real fulfillment of the heart. And ultimately, Narad Muni's efforts bore fruit. Prachina Barishat finally had the eureka moment. Oh, I realize now, oh God, what have I been doing all this while? I was looking for happiness, but whatever I was doing, rather than increasing my happiness, was just entangling me more. I'm just recapping what we have already discussed so that we can, we don't lose track of the thread. And when he realized that the truth, the force of the realization of the truth is so strong sometimes, it's like it hits like, a strong lightning. You're standing on the road. Okay, let me not say you. If somebody is standing on the road and is hit by lightning, God forbid this, but you will be charred instantly, isn't it? So similarly, when the lightning of the grace of the Lord, the lightning of spiritual insight hits, it suddenly has the potential, if it is intense enough, to burn away all material attachments in a moment, just like lightning can burn one's material body in no time into ashes. And such kind of individuals, sometimes you suddenly see that transformation in the lives of individuals. All their attachments suddenly gone. They had that aha moment, and they could see the truth. And Prachina Barishat was like that. He didn't even wait for his sons to come back. He said, I'm packing up. I'm going to the forest. Done. I have figured it out. I was wasting my time. No more wasting the time. Not even a moment. Just left for the forest. And they said, no, in the meanwhile, you do some temporary arrangement. Interim government. I am going to the forest. My sons will return. Then you give the kingdom to them. Just left. And then we discussed the story about how Narad Muni, Viduraji asked Maitreya Muni what happened to the Pracetas, and we discussed about the Pracetas. We discussed how they performed austerities, how they achieved perfection. And we saw finally that after they came out from their 1,000 years of austerity, how eventually they got married. This very beautiful daughter of the forest. Anybody remembers her name? The daughter of the forest?
Marisha.
Very good. Who's that? Who said that answer?
Me.
No, I wouldn't know me. You have to give your name.
Sini.
Thank you, Siniji. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't see in the chat in the participant list who was speaking. Thank you. So that is correct answer. Marisha. So she was the daughter of, who remembers? Marisha is the daughter of, biological daughter of?
Moon god.
Trees.
The trees?
Trees.
Trees, the forest adopted her. Who are the biological parents?
Premalocha. Is it Premalocha?
Premalocha and
The Rishi, can't recollect the name of it.
Kandu.
One
Kandu
Apsara
Rishi and
Prabhuji.
Premalocha. Kandu Rishi and Premalocha. So anyway, we discussed that past time, how they had a child, and Premalocha was not interested in raising a child. She left in the forest, and how the forest took care, but the moon god nourished her and kept her alive. And then she, of course, grew up, and when the Pracetas came out, they saw the forest covering practically most of the earth, and they were so angry, they started burning the forest down. Brahmaji came, Brahmaji intervened. Said, what are you doing? No, we are creating land for agriculture. It's such a thick forest. For example, for us who are in Malaysia, in Malaysia, when we talk about a forest, For those who have been to this part, it's an equatorial forest. It's so thick that you cannot penetrate it. You cannot do agriculture unless you literally cut down the forest. Of course, that may be true for most parts of the world, but more so for dense equatorial regions or tropical regions either. So it says, okay, enough. So they said, okay, fine, we have enough land for agriculture, no more burning down. And the forests, and this girl came and she was offered in marriage to the Pracetas. And we discussed that past time also, and how all the Pracetas married her. It requires very, very extraordinary cooperation. So when the Lord gave blessings, now we are going to the next chapter. The Lord gave blessings to the Pracetas. There was something that the Lord had said. The Lord told the Pracetas in the previous chapter, which is the 30th chapter, that you go back and you rule the kingdom and you will have a lot of power and you will enjoy opulence and everything. But a time will come when you will be very disgusted with leading a material life. And there will be an irresistible urge in your heart to attain Him, which is the Lord. And that prediction is about to bear fruit in this chapter. This chapter is not very long, I think around 31 verses, if I am not mistaken. But this chapter brings to conclusion this pastime of how the Pracetas achieved the perfection of their life. So there are many instances in the Bhagavad where great souls got darshan of the Lord. And sometimes we think that that is the end. A story ended. Correct? Just like in Hindi movies, when the hero and the heroine gets married, they think the end. And they lived happily ever after. But actually the problem starts only after that. They don't tell the story after that. But anyway, similarly, sometimes we think, oh, the devotee got darshan of the Lord, finished. But in most of the pastimes, whether devotees, whether it is Dhruva, whether it is Prahlad, whether it is the Pracetas, practically all these examples, Parikshit, they continue to live, perform their duties in this world, and continue to face so many challenges. That is the nature of the material world. Of course, those who are advanced devotees and those who have got the grace of the Lord are equipped to deal with such situations in the right spiritual consciousness. So in that sense, they are not like so many others who are just trying to enjoy the world in a materialistic way. Nonetheless, oftentimes there is a significant time lapse between their taking darshan and they're actually attaining the spiritual world. Very rarely. Oh, I saw the Lord. Immediately, the Lord said, come, get on the back of Garuda. I'm taking you right away. I don't remember such a story. Usually there is delay, correct? Just like you get appointment letter, but your joining day may be 1 month away. So God may say, yes, I will take you back, but it doesn't mean instantly you join. The Lord still wants from some devotees that they perform certain services in this world. And there are various reasons for that. I don't want to go into that discussion right now. Otherwise, we'll not be able to complete the chapter. But the Pracetas went back. They ruled the kingdom for many, many, many thousands of years. And finally, I don't know what day or date that was, but finally, at one point, they all remembered the Pracetas. Oh, have we remembered the instructions of the Lord? Ultimately, why are we doing all this? Enough. Whatever we have done, enough. Just like their father suddenly got that pack-up desire, they also one day got a pack-up desire. That's enough of this. They already had a very qualified son at that time from Marisha, and they decided to, and the name of that son was Daksha. and they decided to leave Marisha in the care of Daksha because he was a grown-up son, and they said, we will all retire. Now, one thing is very important. Sometimes people think that, and I have mentioned this many times, sometimes people think that when I grow old, automatically one day I will get this kind of an insight. Oh, this world is useless. I want to surrender to God. So sorry to disappoint anybody who's thinking like this. This is not an automatic process. This kind of intense calling towards God comes only for those who have prepared throughout their life spiritually, who have done sadhana, either in this life or in previous lifetimes. Suddenly it may manifest as a strong desire, but it doesn't happen. One should not think that one day I will become spiritual. When God gives me the desire for spirituality, that time I'll become spiritual. Right now, God is not giving me means. It doesn't work like that. Spirituality is a matter of our choosing. It's a matter of our desire. It's not a matter of God's imposition. God always wants everyone to become spiritual. It doesn't impose. So because of their practice, intense practice for thousands of years of austerities and getting direct darshan of Lord Vishnu, eventually they came to this point. The Pracetas then left home. They went to the seashore. The great sage Jajali was residing there. They took his association, they took guidance. And when they perfected their spiritual knowledge, and when they developed a proper equanimity, the vision of equanimity perfectly, they actually became fully perfect in Krishna consciousness. They were already very advanced. They became fully perfect. And what is that fully perfect vision? I've already mentioned at the beginning of the chapter. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashyati. The vision of equanimity where one sees everything in connection with the Lord. When one sees the Lord present in everything, in the heart of every living entity, in every atom, in every stone, in every tree. And when also sees that everything is emanating from the Lord, it is resting within him. Then one never loses sight of the truth. So they attained this kind of perfect vision. And they became very, very blissful because this kind of vision truly puts end to all misery and fully satisfies the heart. So as the Pracetas were performing their austerities like this and becoming more and more perfect in their Krishna consciousness, Narada Muni, who had previously helped them, Narada Muni had helped their father, Lord Shiva had helped them, but Narada Muni appeared. And the Pracetas offered respects to Narada Muni and said that you are such a great transcendental personality. We were so attached in materialistic life, we forgot the instructions of Lord Shiva, and we also forgot the instructions of Lord Vishnu. Lord's Maya is so powerful, if you're not careful, one can easily get distracted. So please enlighten us how we can actually cross over the dark ocean of nescience. And then Narad Muni begins to reply. So there are many very beautiful philosophical discussions here, and I'm just going to briefly summarize them because many of these points we have already discussed in some of the earlier classes. I see some questions in the chat, but I'll come to that a little later when we conclude the class. We will take questions. So Narad Muni began to instruct. Now, this is also a very wonderful point. Just see, the Pracetas are actually so advanced. Actually, by this point, they have practically achieved perfection because that is what is already described. They already achieved that equanimity vision. But they are so humble that they're presenting themselves in front of Narad Muni in such a humble way that please tell us how we can be delivered from material existence. And Narad Muni again summarizes for them the science of devotional service. Because that full, complete realization of absolute truth can only be possible, like what we discussed at the beginning of the class, only when one perfects one's connection with the Lord. Yoga is the process of connection. Karma yoga, one comes little close to the Lord. Jnana yoga, further close. Dhyana yoga, one more close or almost connected. Bhakti yoga means proper connection. You will say, oh, Prabhuji, where is it said like this? This is your own interpretation. Can anybody quote a verse from the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says this or suggests this? May not be in so many words, but essentially conveys this idea.
Yeah, I didn't follow your question. Can you say again, sir?
In which verse of the Bhagavad Gita Krishna indicates to Arjuna that the most intimate connection with him is possible through Bhakti Yoga? So at the end of the 6th chapter, before the Lord enters into the discussion of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna has already described Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. Krishna concludes that chapter. Anybody remembers that verse? 6.47. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yuktatamo mataha. Who is most intimately united with me in yoga? Krishna is answering that question. Not that question, but he's making that statement. Shraddhavan bhajate yoma, who's worshipping me with great love and faith, is the one, my bhakta, is most intimately connected with me. So Narad Muni even here is summarizing the process of bhakti because he wants to make sure that the Pracetas do not leave any gap in their connection between themselves and the Lord. Should be intimately, properly connected. That connection is not possible through Karma Yoga, through Jnana Yoga, through Ashtanga Yoga. Only through Bhakti. Krishna is saying, not my opinion. Krishna says, Tad janmatani karmani, tad ayus tad manovachah, nranamyena hi vishvatma, sevyate hari ishvaraha. How is Hari served? Those human beings perfect their lives, use their life in devotional service to him. For such people, their birth, their activities, their lifespan, their mind and words are all perfect. There are 3 kinds of births, it is said in this chapter. One is Shaukra. Shaukra means birth by semen, the biological birth. Higher than that is the Savitra birth. Savitra birth means when one accepts the sacred thread, the initiation by the Guru, to start the process of learning spiritual knowledge. That is the second birth. And the third birth is the Yajnika birth. The Yajnika birth is when one is given the mantras by the Guru, properly worship the Shri Vigraha of Lord Hari. That is known as the Yajnika birth. So one has to gradually work oneself up to the point that one can actually be established in proper worship and service of the Supreme Personality. Without God realization, without developing devotional service to the Lord, all other aspects of spiritual practice are considered inconclusive or inadequate. Whether it is study of the Vedas, whether it is austerities. In fact, the Bhagavatam says they are useless if they do not lead to devotional service. Kim va yogena sankhena nyasa swadhyaya yorapi kim va shreyo bhiranyaischa na yatratma pradohari. But the Supreme Lord, if he is worshipped by the living entities, that Lord who is the ultimate goal, the supreme gati for living entities, when he becomes pleased by devotional service, he offers himself to his devotees. And that is what we are aspiring as the highest perfection of life. And that is why the worship of the Supreme Lord Hari is considered the most complete form of spiritual activity. Just like when the root of the tree is watered, automatically that water. This is another time the same verse is repeated. If you remember, this verse was there in the first canto. Yatha tarora mula nishechanena tripyanti tatskanda bhujopashakaha pranopaharacha yathendriyanam tathaiva sarvarhanam achyuta ichya. Just like one waters the root of the tree, the water reaches all parts of the tree. Just like when one feeds food to the stomach, the energy nourishes the whole body. Similarly, simply by worshipping Lord Hari with selfless devotion, one is able to satisfy all existence. All one's duties are considered accomplished simply by the performance of Lord Hari's devotional service, which leads to his satisfaction. Because ultimately it is only Lord, the Supreme Lord, who is worthy of all worship. Everything is coming from him. This material world also manifests from him, remains manifested for some time, and ultimately is dissolved and absorbed back into him. He withdraws his energy. He creates, manifests, maintains, destroys, withdraws. Just like the example of the sun is given. The sun creates the cloud by evaporating the water from the ocean. The water then goes and becomes the cloud. The cloud again goes and showers water over the land. So ultimately, the Lord is the source of everything. And there are many, many other examples given, but I'm not going to go through all of them. So all material ingredients are ultimately coming from the Lord, manifested temporarily, and ultimately resting in the Lord. And that is why one should, because the Lord is the ultimate source of everything. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita also in 10.8, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of everything, everything material and spiritual. It's a very beautiful verse, verse 18 in this chapter. It says, Tenaikam atmanam ashesha dehinam kalam pradhanam purusham paresham swateja sadhvasta guna pravaham atmaika bhavena bhajadvamadha. The Lord is one who is the super soul of all living entities. He is both the remote and the immediate cause. He is the supreme person as well as the transcendental controller. But at the same time, he is aloof from the material energy by virtue of his spiritual energy. Therefore, by engaging in his devotional service, one will achieve qualitative oneness with him. Which means, if we are materially infected, the solution to that disinfection is to engage in bhakti. Because bhakti is spiritual, gunatita, beyond the three gunas. When one engages in bhakti, one elevates oneself to the Nistraigunya platform, to the spiritual platform, so that one becomes qualitatively same like the Supreme Lord, that one can associate and serve. And if one wants to develop this kind of bhakti, there are certain kinds of qualities that devotees should develop. What are those qualities? Dayaya sarvabhuteshu santushtya yena kenava sarvendriyopashantya cha Tushyati Ashu Janardana. Very easily Janardana becomes pleased. By what? When one is kind to all living beings. When one remains satisfied with whatever comes, one is not greedy or eager for a lot of selfish enjoyment. And when one controls one's senses, then Lord becomes very pleased. And such devotees who become cleansed of all material desires, whose minds become perfectly clean, Amalatmani, such people are able to feelingly address the Lord. And such kind of devotees, Aviratam Edhita Bhavanopahutah, very feelingly they address the Lord with cleansed hearts. When these devotees address the Lord like that, the Lord becomes so attracted to them. The Lord cannot forget them. He becomes controlled by such devotees and he never leaves them. And that is why the Lord likes these kind of devotees. Those devotees who have given up everything and are in exclusive devotion. Adhana, no material position. Atma dhana. What is their dhana? Their dhana is the wealth of bhakti. But those who are puffed up materially, thinking, oh, I am great, I am so aristocratic, I am so, I am doing God a favor by being his devotee. Who's a greater devotee than me? God must be, grateful to me that a rich, talented, successful man like me became his devotee. Those who have these kind of mentalities and thinking, those who forget that the Lord is the source of all good fortune and all opulence, such people actually become offensive. They may call themselves devotees, but they are unable to attract the mercy of the Lord. The Lord doesn't become attracted by this kind of puffed up devotion. And that is why non-possessiveness is very important quality for a devotee to make genuine progress towards the lotus feet of the Lord. And for such devotees who are so fully dependent on the Lord is extremely affectionate to them. Those who are busy taking care of themselves, the Lord may not be so kind to them, but those who are fully dependent on the Lord and taking care of the Lord's service, the Lord is busy taking care of them. And the Lord becomes so affectionate, the Bhagavatam says, that the self-sufficient Lord becomes dependent on his devotees and does not even care for Lakshmi Devi, the kings and the demigods. So much the Lord feels grateful to his devotees. Aham bhakta paradhi. No, discussed this in the last class. Krishna feels himself dependent on his devotees. That is his mood. What kind of devotees we just discussed? Truly selfless, truly pure devotees who are taking his exclusive shelter. And since the Lord has this kind of a nature, which intelligent man will not want to worship and surrender to such a Lord? Gova dayalum sharanam vrajema. Why would one not want to take shelter of such a wonderful Lord? He is so affectionate to his devotees that he will take complete charge of his devotees. They simply take shelter of him and lovingly try to serve him. So all these summary of bhakti, which we have discussed multiple times in multiple contexts, again Narad Muni gives to the Pracetas. And the Pracetas, sometimes of course they had heard all this knowledge long back. Sometimes you need refresher. Correct? We go to classroom, the teacher tells us something. That time we get excited. Then after 2 months, what the teacher told us? Then we have to open textbook, refer to the notes. Slowly we start remembering. Yeah. So Pracetas also refresher course. Narad Muni came after thousands of years. And yes, now I remember. Yes, what Lord Shiva told us, what Lord Vishnu told us, Now Narad Muni has summarized that very beautifully. So yes, like Arjuna says no to Krishna at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Nashto moho smritir labdhva tvat prasadatmaya chuta sthitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava. All my doubts have vanished. I have regained my memory. Now I will do exactly what you have told me to do. Sthitosmi gata, because I have no doubts anymore. So such a doubtless faith they regained. They became free from any bewilderment. Narad Muni, after instructing, he went back to Brahmaloka. Narad Muni's father is Brahmaji, so he went back to Brahmaloka. And after being instructed like this, the Pracetas became again extremely attached to the Lord. They started meditating exclusively on the lotus feet of the Lord, and in that way they achieved the supreme destination. Pracetas ki jai. So, as I told you, a lot of things. Yeah. They had to have three big encounters, one with Lord Shiva, one with Lord Vishnu himself, not recorded message, not reading book. Direct discourse from Lord Shiva, then direct discourse from Lord Vishnu. Then they married, ruled for so many years. Then Narad Muni came, and of course they were already progressing nicely, but that last push towards the supreme destination, Narad Muni came back and again gave them the little push that they needed. And they crossed the finish line and attained the transcendental. So Maitreya Muni is narrating all this, and he concludes by telling that, I have now described and completed this story, which was actually the conversation between the Naradas and the Pracetas, which is ultimately describing this beautiful pastime of Lord Hari Kirtana. So Shukadev Goswami starts speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. If you remember, the Bhagavatam is the conversation between Vidur and Maitreya is being narrated by Shukadev to Parikshit. He said, so far, means up to the end of the 4th canto, I have described to you the dynasty of Uttanapada. Uttanapad's dynasty started from Uttanapad, Dhruva, correct? Went through generations, Anga, Vena, right? You remember all the names. All that coming all the way to the Pracetas. He ended at this point. So 4th canto has been practically the discussion of Uttanapad's descendants. Uttanapad is the father of Dhruva, in case you have forgotten. Then there is Priyavrat. It said Priyavrat is another dynasty coming down from Swayambhuva Manu. So Priyavrat has another set of descendants. So Shukadev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj that this Priyavrat, he received spiritual knowledge also from Narada. But his case was a bit different. When he was all other places, Narada is trying to convince everybody to give up the world and take shelter of the Lord. But in this case of Priyavrata, Narada convinced Priyavrata to not give up the world but to rule the kingdom. So the thing is, one should not apply the instructions that Guru gives to us to everybody else. Guru and Krishna give customized instructions for each candidate. Don't try to general. Of course, general principles are to worship Vishnu and to do devotion. These are all general principles, but specific instructions are based on Guru and Krishna give based on context. You cannot copy paste to somebody his instructions to me. Oh, Guru told him like this, so I also inherit that. No. Different strokes for different folks. So what a particular living entity needs at a particular point in time, based on that, the Guru will give guidance. So in his case, told him, no, we need you to perform seva not of renunciation, seva of ruling the kingdom. So you don't go into forest. We need somebody to rule, and nobody is more qualified to rule than you. So that was the instruction to Priyavrat. So Priyavrat did that, and then he ruled for many years, and eventually when the right time came, he renounced the world. He divided his property amongst his sons, and eventually he attained the abode of the Lord. So this is the summarized part. The whole story will be described in great detail in the 5th canto, but this is the summary which is given at the end of the 4th canto. In one line, Priyavrat's story is described in one shloka. And Vidura, when he hears this, became very ecstatic. And he fell at the lotus feet of Vidura and was crying tears, meditating on the Lord with great ecstasy. He said, "Thank you so much. You are narrating such beautiful Krishna Katha. Whatever you are narrating about these great souls and their pastimes and their life and the instructions and how they work in the church, it's all so nourishing to me. So nice. I am really finding my path in life by listening to this beautiful, beautiful pastimes." So after taking his permission, Vidura said, "Thank you. Now I need to go," because they have speaking for a long time. So I have to go. 3rd canto, 4th canto has been Vidura and Maitreya discussing. So I need to go. I need to go back to Hastinapur. I left Hastinapur because I was insulted by Duryodhan. Now I understand the war has happened. Everybody is finished. Dhritarashtra is back home. Pandavas are ruling, but Dhritarashtra is still attached. Kingdom. So I have to go back and save my brother. Last project for me. Before I say pack up. One more project I have is to deliver my brother. See, that is why it is very important to be connected to advanced devotees. Because advanced devotees will make an effort to pull us out of material existence. We may not be eager, but they will pull us out. The Guru will pull us out. The advanced devotees who are affectionate towards us will pull us out. Our relatives, if they are great devotees, will pull us out. And if we are devotees, we should make that effort to help those who are close and connected to us. So he decided to go back to Hastinapur to save Dhritarashtra, not because he was, I've been in the forest too long. Now I want to go back and sleep in Hastinapur in my nice palace. not that kind of a desire. Because he went there, he delivered Dhritarashtra, and then he again left. Then he just gave up his body. So this chapter and the whole canto ends with the Falashruti. And the Falashruti is as follows. Those who hear these topics about these great surrendered kings. We have been discussing mainly about kings, right? All these descendants. Great, sir. They were kings, but they were great surrendered kings. Who hears about the great surrendered kings will obtain both material and spiritual good fortune. Materially, they can attain a long life, wealth, reputation, good fortune, and ultimately they can get the opportunity to go back home, back to God. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So, in this way ends Canto 4 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so I'm going to take I'm going to open up the floor and take questions for 5 minutes. Anyone who has a question, they can speak up so everyone can hear, and then I can. But we need to wrap up in another 5 minutes. I think there was a question in the chat. Yeah, Tarun, you want to read out your question?
Yes, sir. So, like you were saying, we should try to see Lord everywhere, right? And we should practice it. So, generally, what happens when you are in any kind of discussions or any kind of devotional company? Actually, sorry, my English is not that good when I'm speaking the spiritual things. So when you are in such company, you are more attached and you try to practice. But as soon as you come out and you are driving and you are going away, you see a lot of disturbing factor, and which eventually you forget that you are unable to see. And so, how can you really practice these things in general? Because for the normal public, if you go out, you will forget.
Good. Tarun, where are you based? Which place?
Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. Okay. You're married?
Yes.
Arranged marriage, love marriage?
This lovely arranged marriage.
Lovely arranged marriage. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Lovely arranged marriage. Okay, can. Also acceptable. So there is a reason why I asked you that question, so
Sure.
that I can give you the right example to understand. So for those who have been in love, whether the love transformed into arranged marriage or whatever the case, but those who have been in love, for them, you don't need to, nobody needs to make them remember the beloved. Correct?
True.
They're at home, they're watching TV. Also, they're looking at the football, but in the mind, something else is going on. They're at workplace doing work, something else is going on. They go even near the area that the beloved stays. There are so many Hindi songs on the gully in which the house of the beloved is.
True.
They see the gully also, they will faint. So why I'm mentioning all this is that it is the nature of love. Of course, material love is, typically mode of passion, but the nature of love is that love creates such an attachment in the heart that anything which is connected to the beloved brings intense remembrance to the heart. You agree? Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. You let's say, somebody's beloved left the handkerchief accidentally, and you have the handkerchief. And you go back home after a tired day of work and you pick up the handkerchief. Okay, just
You
imagine that,
remember.
Tarun. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you see?
You will see the love and the person's face.
You will see the person, right? You will not see the handkerchief. You
Yes.
understand? Correct?
Yes. I got your
Because
point.
you see the connection between the thing and the person related to the thing.
That's right.
So similarly, when a devotee develops attachment to the Lord, because he understands that everything is ultimately coming from the Lord and connected to the Lord, anything and everything he sees, he doesn't see that thing. He sees Lord Hari.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? By the same logic. The
Following.
handkerchief. So this is not fully intellectually, we cannot fully understand and appreciate, but this is an example we can give to help us understand that this vision is possible.
Understand.
So that is why we say this cannot be done simply by jnana yoga. It cannot be done by intellectual understanding. It cannot even be done by mechanical meditation, because you can meditate when you are sitting down, but when you are waking up and going around doing other things, what are you going to do? How will that vision manifest? Cannot manifest, right? Correct. So that is why the only practical way to hold that realization is through love.
Got you. Yeah.
Okay.
Understand.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have just 2 more minutes. I'll quickly take. So keep coming, Tarun. Thank you for joining us. And
My pleasure.
I hope you found the discussion of value. Thank you. Suraj, you want to quickly ask your question?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Yeah, one small question.
Yeah.
On the Mahabharata, during the Bhishma Parva, Bhagavad Gita was spoken, right, Prabhuji? So they tell the Smriti and Shruti Shastra. I'm a bit confused. Can you just clear, Prabhuji? So Bhagavad Gita is what, Shruti Shastra?
Bhagavad Gita, even though it is a Shruti in the sense that it is part of Mahabharata, Smriti, because it is part of Mahabharata, it is considered equivalent to Shruti because in terms of its content, it is the essence of the Upanishads.
Okay.
Okay. So the value, see, the Shruti and Smriti complement each other or explain each other. The Smritis explain the Shruti. That is the understanding. These are not disconnected literatures. Smriti explains Shruti typically through pastimes and historical episodes. Okay, so Mahabharata is a pastime explaining the scriptures. But within the explanation, there is a conversation which is the summary of the scriptures, which is in its content very similar to the Upanishads.
Okay.
Do you get it? Yeah. So if somebody calls it Shruti, it's also okay. If somebody calls it Smriti, is also okay. Huh? Because it is the words of the Supreme Lord Himself. It is eternal. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. So is there any other pressing question, comment, anything? Yeah. So let us all work on falling in love with the Lord. And we can fall in love with the Lord when we regularly hear about His glories in the association of devotees. Tam prasangam amavidya samvido bhavanti ritkarna rasayana katha. Then we'll develop taste, then we'll develop attachment. Then we cannot forget. We want to forget also, we cannot forget, like the gopis. The gopis' problem is not that they cannot remember Krishna. Their problem is they cannot forget Krishna, even though they try. So we want to one day attain that state. Okay. So thank you all very, very much. Hare Krishna. Hope you enjoyed the class. And again, a quick reminder. After today, we will skip the classes for the next week. Next Wednesday and next Saturday, we will not have a class. We will resume next Wednesday. Next means the week after next. Okay, I'll post the messages in the group when the next class is coming. Thank you. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hare
ki
Krishna, Prabhu. Have a good
Jai.
journey, Prabhu.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Have a safe trip.
Krishna
Hare
Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. So I'll pray for all of us at Vrindavan that we all get blessings of the Lord and we can develop our attraction to Him.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hari
Hare
Hari.
Krishna.
Yes,
Hari
Prabhu.
Bol.
We'll
Thank you.
pray for you, Prabhu.